I got a microphone.
Using the microphone?
Good. I want to say it. Daddy's here. Mommy went to get chicken nuggets. I gave you a tip.
Mama went out to get dinner, Xavier.
Welcome to Chatting with Casey with your host, Casey Palmer. Episode 2, No Terrible People Allowed. Welcome back, y'all. For anyone who was worried that this would be a one-hit wonder, put those worries aside. Chatting with Casey is back for week 2, bringing more stories from the greatest city on earth, at least according to 1 in 10 Canadians. In the week since the first episode came out, I've been doing a lot of learning. After nearly a decade spent blogging, I know the majority of creators don't do the work to set their creations up for success from the jump. So I've been putting the time in to do the things that'll pay off down the road, which is why you'll now find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, Player FM, and Spotify opens its doors again next month, but I made sure to get my show on the list. But even when you work at setting up your work for success, there's nothing like listening to your own podcast several times over to make you hypercritical and thinking on everything you need to improve. Transition timing, talking speed, how well the stories flow. There's enough to get caught up in what we're doing wrong, but no one reaches where they want to get overnight, right? The great titans of industry all started from an idea, and you're only going to learn if you keep working at one, so that's what I'm going to do as I figure it all out. That said, it's a podcast that's still finding itself. When I think of Chatting with Casey, I think there'll be 2 types of episodes. One's covering a bevy of topics and ideas like we saw in the debut episode, and then ones where I actually chat with people, interview pieces with a twist. I want to tell great stories, and that in mind, I don't want to bring guests into a studio for my podcast and do it like I've heard a million times over. I want to hear about the things that make them tick in a place where they feel that happens most. Meaningful stories told in people's favorite places. I think it will make for some excellent episodes, and I look forward to making it happen. And for my first shot at this, I looked no farther than my favorite coffee shop. For someone who doesn't drink that much coffee, I hit Coffee Public up a lot when I work next to it. Like, a lot. So much that when they put their drink menu together last summer, the Casey Palmer found its way there. A playful interpretation of the half lemonade, half iced tea Arnold Palmer with elderberry hibiscus iced tea and house-made lemonade instead. And yes, it made its way back for 2018, so you have a chance to try it if you're ever in the Bay and College area. But you don't hit a place of that office and not build some sort of relationship. And I got to know Nick and Aaron Cluley well, the couple that owns the joint, and with Tracy Molyneaux, the bubbly, comic-loving manager who you could pick out of a crowd by her hair color alone. Tracy and I got to know each other pretty well over a year and a bit, and when I knew that chatting with Casey was imminent, I made sure to steal some of her time to chat. You'll have to excuse me. Listening to it now, I can see how super excited I was to be working on content for my new podcast, so I was really energetic. It's a fun listen, if not a little chaotic, but hey, this is what you signed up for. You just didn't know it at the time. So without further ado, my chat with Tracy Molyneaux. I hope you enjoy her story as much as I did. I'm here with my lovely friend Tracy Molyneaux. What's up?
Hi. How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So I'll do a minor intro of Tracy so you guys know who she is. Tracy is I don't know, I'm going to use like random phrases to describe you, like an avant-garde creative type. She, by day, she's the manager of Coffee Public, which is a dope coffee shop over at 800 Bay, College and Bay, which is near where I work right now. So I'm here all the time, literally all the time. But on top of that, she makes jewelry, and she's an artiste, and she's into comics, and she is a huge Star Wars nerd in all the right ways, and like loves her cats. And I'm gonna stop stealing her thunder, but I could describe Tracy for like the rest of this podcast. So how about we go over and I let her do the rest of her introducing.
Okay. Oh no, now I'm gonna get real awkward. That's fine.
Awkward's fine.
Awkward's totally fine.
Totally on brand. That's part of what we do here.
Yeah, and I'm like the awkward nerd, so it works. that has brightly colored hair that
killing
everybody
it.
sees from
Yeah,
everywhere.
So we're good. This is amazing. So who are you? What do you do? What's your world all about?
What is my world all about? Well, obviously my cats, and then my husband, but mostly my cats.
All right.
And makeup, because I'm a makeup artist.
Okay.
And my jewelry, which I love making. I've actually realized I've been making jewelry for like 10 years the other
10
day.
years.
10 years.
Do you have any pieces of jewelry that you're like proudest of, or is it kind of like a mix all over the map?
It's kind of a mix because I do so much stuff.
Okay.
That I have a few pieces that I'm really proud of that
Okay.
I refuse to part with. But yeah, it's just a little bit all over the map. Yeah.
Okay. What goes into your process of making jewelry?
Just me staring at things for a long, long time, being like, what can I make out of these random objects?
Okay.
So like, because I make things out of like vinyl, comic books, whatever I can get my hands on.
For real?
Dice.
Wow.
Yeah. I do
So
it all.
it's really unconventional. Like, I guess it's people have. Do you have to face that a lot? And that people have this preconception of what jewelry is all about, and then you
Definitely.
just go and kick in the door and be like, boom, no, it's this.
Yeah, and I've been at so many craft shows where people like look at my stuff like guitar pick earrings with Swarovski crystals and like sterling silver hanging off of it.
Wow.
So I'm like, these are $150. They're like, but they're guitar picks, and I'm like, but they're also really expensive materials. Like,
Fair. And this is the conversation I have actually at my parents' house all the time. So in my past, I used to draw a ton of comics, do Artist Alley at comic book cons and stuff like that. And artists in that scenario anyway super undervalue their work, like to a ridiculously low level where
Yeah.
like, so you drew this entire comic and it took you like 100 hours to put it together and you're selling it for $10. I'm really confused.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you think it's like an audience thing where people don't understand that there is a certain number of people hours that go into making things, and you have a certain amount of like, there's the intangible quantity as well of just being like, hey, like this is the value I put in there because it's a Tracy original.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Well, like, and it's also people don't realize like the time that you've spent learning
Yeah.
how to do that thing. Or like they can go to any store and buy like jewelry. It's like that fast fashion kind of thing where they're like, well, I can go buy a necklace for $10 or I can go and learn how to make this bracelet. And I'm like, okay, well then you go do that. Like,
For real.
you don't have to like, but I don't need to hear that either.
Yeah.
That you can do that. Like,
That's true though. I mean, I think it's just that people are. If you were trying to get like a piece of art to hang on your wall, you'd value it a lot differently than like a tangible good you can fit in the palm of your hand. And I guess the only exception to that really is technology, where people are willing to pay like $1,500 for a phone because we're insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just find it's like this huge rift between like the valuation we have in our head, I guess. And I think it's really has to do with size and scale. If something's small, you're automatically like, well, it can't cost that much. Yeah, well. Yeah, I can.
It can. Well, and it's so funny because I do use a lot of unconventional materials. So people are like, well, I wouldn't pay that much for like a vinyl necklace.
Right.
Or I wouldn't pay that much for something made out of comic books. And I'm like, but there's so much time and energy and thought put into that.
Right.
Like you have to look kind of beyond the material that I've used into like what is actually being presented to you. But people have a hard time looking past like the material used because they just think it's cheap and easy to come by, and so that lessens the value of it. Something.
Okay. Well, have you done any stuff like exhibitions? Like I know there's always shows and everything where you can show the jewelry, but have you done anything more artsy where it's like an exhibition where you can show off individual pieces and maybe like put a little blurb next to them of like, this is what inspired this and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, I used to do a lot more of them before I moved here. But it's very hard here to like get into that kind of stuff, especially doing something like jewelry because a lot of people do it.
Okay.
And so it's almost like I remember I tried to apply for a craft show and somebody was like, "What do you make?" And I was like, "Jewelry," and they like scoffed at me, and I was like, "Okay, bye."
Oh no. Okay, so I always hear it's hard out in Toronto, so I guess that's in line with that completely.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just start a Casey and Friends art show and we just do it that way.
I've actually been thinking about trying to plan an art show.
Yeah.
And making it. I have this like ideal and goal in my head because I want people to come out and feel like they can just represent whoever they are,
Right.
no matter who they are, as long as you're not like a terrible person.
Yeah, no terrible people allowed.
No terrible people.
Put that as a disclaimer.
Yeah, because I've like done queer craft shows, and I'm
Okay.
like, that's really cool. But I feel like even putting that kind of a label on something sometimes like makes people not want to come.
Yeah.
As well, just being like,
Yeah,
But I
it's,
want like a craft show where everybody can.
Okay.
Whether you're queer or not or whatever you do, you can come out and like.
So a Tracy and Friends craft show?
I guess so.
You know, either way, but if it's me or you, I'm still going to support it. So,
Yeah.
like, we'll get the word
Let's
out.
do it together.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Let's file another project onto the Casey
Yeah,
workflow.
right? Because I'm not busy at all. We know this.
Yeah. No.
So what do you get up to other than jewelry?
Well, I run a coffee shop, as you mentioned, and I'm a makeup artist. So, I mean, when I have time to paint my face, I paint my face and post pictures of it.
You do really well at it at Halloween
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank
As a guy, you know, who really can't tell the difference sometimes between mascara and eyeliner. So I actually do know. I know there was a long time I didn't, but now I'm
That's
just like, okay,
impressive.
cool.
That's really
Thank
impressive.
you.
I don't think my husband knows.
Even
yet,
got
so.
concealer. What?
Whoa.
Bronzer? What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I can navigate my way through Sephora if I had to.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But for me, since, you know, I don't always notice it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is a very, you know, stereotypical guy approach to makeup. But when you do your Halloween pieces, I'm always just kind of like, yo, that is dope. So
That's where like my passion lies. So I love like spooky things.
yeah.
Like that is just what I'm all about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, no, that's a very, very good point. Because we've had discussions on this about the things that you enjoy consuming in media and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, oh, I totally want to go on a haunted house tour. I'm like, okay, all right.
Cool, that's cool. And tomorrow's Friday the 13th. So
It
like,
is.
I'm very excited.
So I guess that would make you triskaidekaphilic,
Yeah.
the opposite of triskaidekaphobic.
Yeah.
So you're always like, it's like the 13th come Friday the 13th. You're like, I am on it.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah, the last time was like in October, so it was like the
Is it extra special in October?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the month of Halloween.
Right.
Yeah.
I figured.
So,
Do you have any plans for tomorrow?
No, but I am planning an outfit. I've been like all day like trying to figure it out. I have my rat's paw necklace that I bought from
Yeah.
a taxidermist.
Okay. But you always have a pretty unique look every day. So what goes
Yeah.
into that?
I mean, I just have weird things in my closet.
Best response.
I've never had like normal clothes.
Okay.
And then when I do, I always just like make it weird somehow. Like I don't understand how to be normal.
You have the Tracy touch, which is not a bad thing. No, it's true. I mean, there are some people I've known through life who are just really, really good at making something their own. A lot of us conform into like, this is how things are done. This is how it operates. Like, look at me right now. I'm wearing like a jersey for Jersey Day. So there you go.
It's true.
But it looks good. But I'm
You
saying,
do.
I'm just saying.
Look,
Thank you.
I mean, you look good every day.
Yes.
You're fine.
Thank you. My wife agrees, so we're doing something right. Things are good. But then they have individuals I have known and who are like, some of them are really, really good friends who just have learned how to make things work in their own space. And I
Yeah.
like totally love it.
Yeah.
Just because the world is like, can be really, Toronto especially. Most of downtown Toronto could be really bland.
Yeah.
We are like a city of towers and gray, and you could find color, you could find personality in different places, but it's good to see like pops of color and something a bit more unique
Yeah.
at times.
My hair I've been dyeing for 10 years. And I think it was like when we first opened here, so almost 2 years ago,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to dye my hair. I'm going to let it be its normal color. That lasted 2 months. I was like, I can't do this. So it's my normal is
Okay.
weird
That's good.
for other people.
Well, tell us a bit about where you're from, your background,
Yeah.
what brought you over to the Big Smoke, the Six, whatever people want to call this city these days.
I don't know what the kids call it anymore.
All those kids and their names.
I'm from Shelburne, Nova Scotia. I'm from a very small town of 1,500 people. I actually
Wow.
live outside of the town in a place called Sandy Point.
Wow.
So it was like a 15-minute car drive to get into town. And then I moved to Fredericton, New Brunswick for university, where I met my soon-to-be husband. And then we moved to Toronto because he was going to school here. He got accepted for his master's, and so I just decided to pack up along with him and move out here.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm one of those weird people that had the childhood dream of moving to Toronto. Like, small town girl in the big city kind of thing.
Okay,
I was like,
cool.
I'm going to be a fashion designer in Toronto and be world famous. Toronto, of all places. It was like, New York, Paris, no. Toronto.
It has its own charm. I mean,
true.
I'm from the city next door. Grew up in Mississauga, Ontario, and then made my massive commute over the Toronto border, like a 40-minute drive over to the east side of Toronto.
Yeah.
And I can understand the appeal. Like,
Yeah.
it legitimately, there's people who live 35 minutes away from Toronto who are like, ugh, the city. Why do I live in the city? You're like, you live in a city.
Yeah.
It's a smaller city, but you still live in a
You
city.
still live
It's
there.
way different than like being from Sandy Point.
Yeah. Well, like, and I grew up like watching Much Music and like City TV and all those things. So when I moved here, I was like, I know all of this because I've seen all of this. Like,
cool.
This is like, and I watched Scott Pilgrim. So of course, like,
Obvi.
and then I moved to like Bathurst Street.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that pizza that's there. I'm like, I know this is like. So yeah, it was really cool for me to move here just because like, yeah, I grew up being exposed to media that was from the city. So
Cool.
like Speaker's Corner and like Electric Circus and like all that stuff.
Okay. I should, on this note, I'm making a mental note. Well, I guess it's actually a verbal note as well because it's on the podcast now, so hey. But I should bring Erica M over here sometime to like chill out and have coffee because, yeah, I could probably make that happen. Her and I chat. It's a thing. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about this. Like after the podcast. We'll talk about this.
There was a VJ on Much Music that I loved. And of course, I'm blanking on her last name because I'm a terrible person, but her first name is like Rachel.
Okay.
And then she ran for like the NDP party in Toronto.
Yeah.
And she stopped me outside of Bathurst Station and she was like, hey, can we get a picture with you? And I was like, yes. Obviously. Like, you're asking me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to ask you. This is fine. Like,
I know there's also Nam, who she's now with TVO, and I've been trying to get her for my Black History Month series, but we have to navigate through the politics of public broadcasting, so trying to get that one sorted out, but so far so good. And another thing that kind of drew us together when we first met was mutual love of comics.
yes. Huge nerds. Huge.
Well, I've been writing a lot on that lately. I actually so I stepped away from it for a long time because, you know, my parents were always big on the entire, hey, get a job that pays because there's enough starving artists out there. And I was like, all right. And then wound up in bureaucracy for the last 11 years. And only recently started getting back into it. I wound up at Page and Panel, the TCAF shop, a few weeks ago and kind of had a long chat with the guys there about what's been going on the last 10 years in comics. What have I missed? Because my top 10, it's like a top 13 list of my favorite comics are all stuff that ended, like, for the most part, like, at least a decade ago. And I was like, I need to update this.
That's fair.
So now I'm getting back into that scene. Are you still into it, or have you?
I try to keep up on it. I used to work at a comic book store. So, like, I mean, obviously I was well-read until I moved here, and then I was like, I can no longer afford to buy comic books because rent and groceries are more expensive. So, and I didn't have my discount anymore either.
Right.
So it's like
Everything changed.
everything changed. I mean, I try to keep up as much as I can with it. It's hard though. There's always new stuff, and there's always like interesting stuff. That's
Right.
the thing now in comics is like there's so much interesting creator-owned content being made that it's hard to stay on top of everything.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a big part of it for me was figuring out the fact that, you know, you start to follow people on Twitter, Instagram, things like that, and you start to see just how much is out there and how much has changed. The days of it being like, you know, Marvel, DC, Image are not long gone, but gone enough that we're in a world now where it's just kind of like you can get it in so many other ways. And you look at things that succeed on Kickstarter and things like that. There's so much more out there than there used to be.
Yeah. And I mean, Image is like, Image will always have a special place in my heart because, like, I just love most of the titles
Gotcha.
on that label. So, and I mean, I have comic book tattoos, and it's just, like, always going to be a part of that I can't obviously leave it.
Right. Right. Well, talking on Image for a second, I assume you've read The Authority?
I have not.
You have not? Oh,
No.
okay. We got to get you on that.
Okay.
Have you read, there's another one. No, that's Vertigo. Have you read Transmetropolitan?
I've read some of it, yeah,
Okay.
actually, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of a favorite of mine because I figure it's like one of these things. Like it's, anyone listening, I'm going to write a post about this so you'll read more. But it's a series about Spider Jerusalem, who's a gonzo journalist, and he basically starts taking on the U.S., the government, and trying to uncover all these scandals and everything.
Yeah.
And if you were to read it, it's a 10-trade paperback series, but it has one of the sweetest endings of a comic ever, which is why I love it so much. I
think I've only
good
made
stories.
it like 2 volumes in.
Okay.
But I was like, he's just Hunter S. Thompson. Like, that is just who this character is.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, I had to get rid of a bunch of comics to like make room for my children to sleep. So I'm still coming to terms with some of that. I've managed to hide away like what trades I've kept in the bottom section of the bookshelf, which is behind the crib. So it's there and no one can see it right now, which is good because there's a lot of titles I read that probably are not suitable for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
If he opens this up, it's like, oh, Preacher, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
yeah. When I moved here, like when I moved to Toronto, I had a huge shelf of comics that I like got rid of half of them, and it broke my heart.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, goodbye, friends. Like,
What do you remember what you parted with?
I parted with a lot of singles. Like I had a lot of single issues. I still have the #1 of Saga.
Okay.
Because I was like, no, this is mine.
Doing super well.
Lucky for me, the comic book store I worked at got the ghost variants for a lot of like the image stuff. So I have a lot of really cool ghost variants that I still have that I refuse to part with.
Okay.
Mine. But like, yeah, I parted with most of my singles of the Saga run. I think I parted with all my singles of Batwoman. I went because I had all the hardcovers too. Like, I have a tattoo of her. She is my girl. Like, except for this. Okay,
Go in.
Nerd rant about this until the cows come home. But I stopped reading when the creative team changed.
Okay.
Because I could not get behind. I mean, the creative team left because DC is a bunch of buttheads. And just can't let good things happen to good characters. So
why should people thrive and have good lives and have everything go well?
Right?
That's not good storytelling. That's a lie, but hey, okay.
Yeah. I just can't deal with DC anymore. They're like, let's be dark and gritty and make women for 14-year-old boys.
Ugh.
And I'm like, no.
Okay, I can perhaps understand your qualms with that. Yeah, this sounds like it might not be amazing.
Yeah. So, and their run on the run on Wonder Woman that ended with like Jeff Chiang was doing the Wonder Woman, and I stopped reading that after those guys left. Like, I also have a Wonder Woman tattoo from that run. So
the tattoos are good though. Like, you know, it's I always appreciate your tats because like they have some very excellent meaning behind them.
It's true. All my tattoos have a meaning.
Keep going then. Talk about
I'm
your
so
tats.
excited. I have a bitch planet tattoo. I'm like the one on my hand.
Nice.
Is an NC, which means non-compliant female. Because bitch planet's an amazing. And when Kelly's Udaconic, I posted it and I tagged her in it and she liked it and I like fangirled everywhere. I was at my friend's place and I just started screaming.
Very nice.
And my husband and him were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "You don't understand what just happened to me."
Very cool.
Yeah. And I don't know. I have a Totoro.
Okay.
My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the best movies ever.
Studio Ghibli on the house. What?
Ugh, I love them. I bought a Studio Ghibli movie the other day at Sobeys for like $4.
Okay.
It was the best day of my life. Because Disney's trying to grab my money any way they can, and I will.
There's certain things in reality we have to live with, which is Disney grabbing our money.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you just accept.
I know.
In life.
They just keep like taking all the
just
things
when you think
that
they're
I love.
done, they find another way. And I'm personally okay with that because it's it's becoming part of so many generations' childhoods at this point
It's
where
true.
we're just kind of like, all right, Disney, have more of my money.
Yeah. I'm like, I grew up watching you, and now you're taking over Star Wars. You took over Ghibli. Oh, okay. I'll keep giving you money.
Right?
If you keep making good stuff.
Between Marvel and Star Wars and it's just like they are such a beast.
Yeah. Ugh. My house is just littered with comic book memorabilia and like Disney things.
I almost feel like you need to like make an interactive map of your house, because just from a knowledge of just like from different conversations, how much is probably in there. I feel like you could almost like make an app where you just like take photos of your house and you just like press to interact with all the different like statuettes and toys and things you have in there.
There's not as much as I want in there. My husband is always like,
this
maybe
is how you
not today.
finance the move to a bigger house to get more stuff. Obviously, I'm not promoting hoarding, by the way. Just so we put out there, I'm not promoting hoarding.
I like
I'm just
how you're saying I'm not promoting hoarding, but I'm getting rid of all of my stuff onto you.
I mean, it's you know, if I have to have massive statuettes that I can't use anymore, I know who to give them to. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I showed off my Star Wars drone the other day to some friends. They opened the box. And I was like, isn't this the best thing? And they're like, this is pretty great. And I was like, do you want to see it again? And they're like, no.
And it's getting warmer, so you can fly it soon.
Yeah. So excited.
So what do you have going on right now?
Right now.
Because I know you just cleared off the jewelry table, so I don't know if you're in jewelry mode yet.
Yeah.
So what do you have going on right now?
Right now, this place is... I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's like taking up a lot of my time, but it's okay because I love my job.
Well, you do, like you're here running it and you have, you know, as you do in any coffee shop, there's turnover, there's new staff, you have to figure things out and get them up to speed, etc. You do the social media for the place, right? Yeah. Like a large chunk of that happens as well. Yeah. So... okay, she's starting to rock back and forth, think about all the stuff. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't say anything. I meant there's a lot to do that we will actually go into detail about, and I'm sure it's all going great. And oh my gosh.
No, it's good. I have a job where I don't wake up anymore dreading coming to work.
That's good.
Like, I get up at 5 a.m. every morning. Yeah. But I don't mind. Okay. Because I love where I come to work. Like, I interact with amazing people. Like, I met you because of here. And I met a bunch of other friends that I'm good friends with now because of this place. Like,
very cool.
It's just a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good sign, definitely.
Yeah. And it's always fun running their social media account because... You know, the owners were like, just do you. And I was like, all right, here we go.
You end up with some interesting people on the who interact with the post, though, I've noticed. Because I tend to like drop a line here and there and be like, yo, hey, what's up? And I see other things come up. I'm like, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you have how do you handle like some of the wacky stuff that happens both in store and on social?
I mean, it's easier to ignore on social media. Sometimes I'm just like, all right, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave it and walk away and everything will be fine. In store, it's a little harder. Yeah. But the thing is, I am a mouthy person and I'm very upfront with people sometimes. And sometimes people don't take that the right way all the time. So I have to apologize sometimes for the things that I do. Fair.
No, it's true. I mean, people tend to avoid confrontation, right? It's not a thing that a lot of people deal with very well. And if someone, let's contextualize this a bit more. I basically told my friend that Toronto's new slogan should be entitled AF. Because that probably speaks to a lot of the mentality that comes down to the city and how we operate. Yes. And I'm going to go on another tangent altogether because that's what I do. That's fine. But I've been fortunate enough to start exploring other parts of Canada over the years, over the last few years especially. And most Torontonians, because we're so close to Pearson, tend to go south. We go to the States. We go to the Caribbean for all-inclusive packages because it's nice and easy and simple.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, right? It's cheaper than domestic travel. And so most Torontonians haven't gone further west than about Niagara Falls or further east than Montreal. Yeah. That's kind of the corridor within Canada for most Torontonians, or north to go camping, right? Yeah. So when it comes down to the Torontonian view of Canada, it's very much like, oh, is it all of Canada like Toronto? I'm like, are you crazy? Like, I'm sorry, what? and so we have this view of like what it means to be Canadian and what it is like the Canadian ideals and standards and everything. Basically, it's us all Torontonian ideals and standards. Like, you could talk about what it means to be Torontonian, but the rest of Canada is just such a different place.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually been lucky enough to travel around most of Canada in my life. due to like my mom's from Saskatchewan, so
Oh,
I've
real?
been like, I've been to Calgary, I've been to Saskatchewan.
Okay.
I was in Air Cadets. I was in my Air Cadet marching band for a little while too.
Wow. Okay.
I played the glockenspiel because
You played the glockenspiel. Are you kidding? That is dope.
just in case I wasn't a nerd already.
No, your nerd cred keeps raising, and I love it. I love it.
I know. What up, world?
Okay.
But because I was in Air Cadets, I got to go to Winnipeg for a week
Okay.
for free, which is kind of fun.
It's okay.
It's pretty interesting. I got to visit like Louis Riel's gravesite.
Yeah.
Or thought of gravesite because they've had so much flooding in Winnipeg that
Oh.
like graves and gravestones have
Oh,
shifted,
no,
so they don't
really?
actually know where things are.
Wow,
At
I
least
did
they
not
didn't
know
when
that.
I was there. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, Canada is a big place with lots of different cultures. Like, yeah. I don't even know how to describe it to someone who hasn't been to other parts of Canada.
Yeah.
Like, you go over to somewhere like Canmore, Alberta, and you see like you're up in this mountain town, and the backdrop of your main street is like the Rockies.
Yeah.
You go out to. I haven't been out to the Maritimes yet.
Ugh.
It's coming. It's coming. I might actually be going to talk at a conference in November in Fredericton, I think, this year.
Fredericton?
Yeah.
That's where I lived
Yeah,
for
yeah,
7
yeah.
years. So you need to go to Strange Adventures. That's
Okay.
the comic book shop I worked at.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in initial talks, so we're gonna
Yeah,
see
yeah,
what
yeah.
happens. But
Do
I've
it.
always wanted to go to well, when the boys get older, like when I could stand traveling with them, because I love my children, but I cannot. No. We could do a car ride out to like Ottawa or Montreal right now. Past that, I'm like, no planes,
Yeah.
no planes.
No, I mean, that's pretty fair.
Yeah. So when they're older, I definitely want to try and do, if not road trips, then via rail trip
Yeah.
across the country and just kind of check things out that way. Because I think it's important for them to have more context, right?
Definitely.
Like Canada is not just what you see around here, and you are partly fortunate and partly not to be in Toronto. Like there's a lot of awesome stuff about being in Toronto.
Yeah,
But also
definitely.
I don't want them to be so boxed in. I don't want those blinders on them, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, living here now. I think it's been almost 6 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been
Cool.
a while.
Okay.
But like, there are times when I really miss home because I miss the water, which
Yeah.
is a weird thing because like everybody's like, but you have the water
the same
here,
thing.
and I'm like,
It's not the same thing
not
at
the
all.
same.
Yeah. Every time I go out to the Atlantic or the Pacific and you are faced with the enormity of it all and different smells, like
Yeah.
lake smell versus ocean smell, right?
It's
Completely
very different.
different.
Yeah.
Different sounds, different smells,
Yeah.
different
More
winds.
fog.
More fog. Yeah, fog. What is up with that?
I used to, in the summertime, waking up, I would wake up to foghorns because you'd have the fog in the morning in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
summer, and then the foghorns would go off, and I was close enough to the harbor that
Okay.
I could hear them. Like, I learned to swim in the ocean. So,
Okay. That's a very
Yeah.
different lifestyle than anything I've ever lived in my life.
yeah, and fishing, like going fishing on a wharf
Okay.
is really cool. I love it there. It's so beautiful. And I mean, it's such a cliche, but we are really nice people
Yeah.
most of the time.
But you can hold your own in a fight.
We can hold our own. I mean, they drink. So
There. No, it sounds like a dope place. I mean,
it is, yeah.
it's just I don't know enough about the East Coast, like, and I'll admit to that, like, up front.
Yeah.
And that, like, I love seafood and I like a good drink and I like, hanging out somewhere peaceful and just being able to chill. I do a lot of city time between Toronto and wherever else I visit.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's nice to just go out somewhere smaller and just like chill.
Yeah.
And so I think of the Maritimes, I think all that.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool.
Yeah, no, that's totally what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, Nova Scotia, the biggest city is Halifax. So
Yeah, just
You know.
I think I would like really enjoy just like spending a good chunk of time out there. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a down the road thing. I don't plan
Yeah.
to like be in Toronto exclusively forever.
No, that's fair.
I think I know a lot of people still have a plan of like I'm gonna work like in the one city, stay here forever, retire eventually,
Yeah.
and then that's it. I'm like, I don't know. I think I'd rather have some flexibility 10 years from now. To
Yeah.
be like, I'm going to take a few months off. It's summertime for the kids. Let's go out and just do something wacky.
yeah,
And that's what I'm trying to build toward right now. Getting
That's
to a
nice.
point where I can just kind of shut my life off at intervals and know it'll still run. I'll still be cool, but I can still go out and have a life.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important because, like, I don't know. I feel like people aren't supposed to work like they work.
Right.
Like, you need time to, like, settle down and be okay.
Yeah.
And then, like, do
Yeah.
your thing.
For sure.
Because then, like, you get older and you're like, I didn't get to do the things that I want to do.
Them regrets.
Yeah. You don't want those.
It's true. I mean, I don't know. Now that I'm a dad, I've been having a lot of, I don't want to call them weird thoughts, but I think I'm understanding life a bit more. So I see my parents are in their 60s, Sarah's parents are in their 60s, and I almost can start to see into their minds a lot more. Before they were just like, you know, as mom and dad, disembodied figures who are just kind of like, they just make rules and whatever. But now I see the people behind it, and I start to understand, like, after having kids and you kind of see your kids grow into who they're going to be, there's this large swath of time of like, you are the person you are, but you're just getting older.
Yeah.
And your health goes like awry and things like that, and you become less able to be the person you think you should be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to do is to have more time to be me.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to describe it, because I know that now I'm at a point where maybe my personal milestones won't have the same degree of magnitude as they had before. I'm not planning to plan any more weddings. Sarah, no more. One was enough.
Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
There's gotta be literal death, and I plan to go first. So I'm just saying. Anyway, so and then I don't plan to just live vicariously through my kids, because a lot of parents, what happens is like you have your kids, and then you just kind of go on autopilot and live for their sake 100%. And I'm like, I love them, but there's enough going on in my world that I'm not gonna just like stop being me.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important thing for a lot of parents to learn. So you can still do what you want to do, and that's okay.
Yeah, for real. Like you're still you're allowed. I don't even want to call it selfish. People think of it as being selfish, but it's like no.
Selfish.
It's almost like self-preservation. You are allowed to like want to preserve some of your sense of self.
Yeah.
In the entire realm of parenthood, you don't have to just like stop.
No.
And I think that's what scares off a lot of people from parenthood too, because they feel like they're gonna have to shut it all down and then move on to like just taking care of kids full time and stuff. I'm like, in the first couple of years, it's a lot because they need so much more.
Yeah.
And then after that, just kind of like, my kid told me the other morning he didn't want me around in the classroom. I'm like, peace out then. All right, later, man. All right, you good? Whatever. I'm done. I'm like, is this the tone we're going to have for the next 20 years? That I am golden. No, Dad, don't want you around. All right.
Yeah. I got lucky. Like, I went to the university for 4 years, and I was very, very unhappy by the end of it. But I luckily had like really supportive parents who realized how unhappy I was, and they were like, take some time off, figure out what you want to do, and then like go back to it if you want. And I never went back to it, but they still like supported me with every endeavor that I like did. So like my jewelry, they would like for Christmas and like birthdays, they would buy me stuff to help me along with that.
Super cool.
And for my makeup, they're like super supportive of that. So my whole family and my husband, they're all super supportive of everything that I want to do. So it's really nice to be like that kid who was like drawing in like loose leaf notebooks to like this, because like that's always who I've been, and I have people around me that are like, no, this is who you are, like just do that, because it's not fun to watch you like not be happy.
Right. Well, shout out to Tracy's family then for supporting, who I'm sure will eventually listen to this when it eventually gets published, because it's eventually going to happen. Like, I promise, this will be a live podcast sooner or later.
It's going to be real.
I'm not just making if you look down at like the actual recorder's not on, we're just been here talking for like 40 minutes of just like, we've been pretending the whole time. Surprise.
I am a real podcast. I am.
Oh man, no, this has been a thing I've wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's actually a friend of mine through the Twitter world who passed away about 5 years ago,
oh, man,
who always told me that I should like use my voice to like put out more words and stuff. So now I'm just like, boom, this needs to happen. And so in the recent times, I've been like, I'm not tired of writing, but I've written a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm writing probably an average of 50 to 100,000 words a week right now.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm just at the point now where like I feel like I've told most of my stories from that standpoint, that now I'm just like, I just want to go around and like chat with other people and say what's up and figure things out.
Well, I think it's really funny because like we were talking about podcasts one day, and I was like, it'd be really cool to have a podcast. And you're like, I'm starting a podcast. And I was like, of course you are, because you don't do enough already.
Right. Oh my God, no, I'm getting ready to like go into the holy trifecta of like blog, podcast, and vlog.
Oh my God.
So now
you
they're
should
getting
just
into
do it all at once.
I should. Ideally, I would. I just feel like video has so many specific setups and everything that it's like trying to get out. I don't want to have to come downtown with like literally all my gear, which is like a 15-pound bag, set it all up, and then have it there so I can like do it, you know? It's one of those things where I'm like, it'd be nice, but...
People are weird because you're in public and they're like, am I on that?
Don't worry about it. No, don't worry. I never worry about people. I've stopped. It's like, I think that's where I'm at now, where I've like got to the point where it's like, I'm going to do what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what that ultimately that makes for the best stories and the best content.
If
you don't worry about like, you know, what's going on here, what's going on there, and you just kind of be you in the space.
It's true.
It works out so much better.
Yeah. Oh man, no, when I figured that out, it was just like everything was uphill from there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's just so much easier to like not worry. Like,
and I think it's important for like I'm gonna gravitate towards the entire fatherhood perspective on this for the sheer sake of the fact that I'm a dad, right?
That's what I have cats, you have kids. It's fine.
I want them to grow up to be expressive and not worry about like people judging them and stuff like that. If you are a good person and you do things with an intentionality of like not trying to harm anyone when you're doing it, you should be able to express almost anything going on in your world, whether it's through art, whether it's through writing, whether you want to start up a charity to help people or whatever. Like, I feel like there's room for everyone to express.
Yeah.
And we won't always agree. But at least if we know what makes someone tick, you have a better chance of being able to help them find what they need.
Yeah.
It's when we bottle all inside because we feel that people are going to judge us or anything like that we never end up getting where we want to get to.
Yeah, exactly. My thing is like, everybody has a story. Everybody deals with things differently, or they are in the world and the world treats them differently for whatever reason. But my whole thing is always be kind to people because you never know what that person is dealing with. And it shouldn't matter what they look like. Shouldn't matter what their skin color is. Shouldn't matter like however they present themselves. Just be kind to people. Like, it's a pretty easy thing to do. Sure. Just be nice. Yeah.
It's theoretically it's easy, but people make it really hard.
It's true.
Yeah. It's like, it seems to be this thing that people have a huge issue with. It was like, well, and I think part of it comes from the entire idea that if I give you an inch, you'll take a mile.
Yeah, which is so like crazy to me.
It's horrible. Like, I've dealt with that I've been creating content in some form for about 15 years now.
Yeah.
And I've seen it where it's like, I want to team up with people. I want to collaborate. I want to do all these things. Yeah. But everyone's just kind of like, oh, no, this is my stuff. No, if I give you it, then he's like, I have no more to like give to the world.
Yeah. But like, that's why you collaborate with people. And that's the thing about, I have dealt with those artists too that are like very protective of their stuff or very like stuck up about their stuff and are ready to snap at you in a second because you've stolen their idea. It's like, no, we are allowed to have same ideas because that's just how life goes sometimes. Like, if we are similar people doing a similar thing, it is more than likely that at some point we will have the same idea. Very true.
I always counter argue that great artists, great creators will have more great ideas.
Yeah.
If I put out an idea on the internet and someone took it, I might be irritated and be like, okay, that was a good idea. I wish I had more time and money or whatever to act on it.
Yeah.
But I'll come up with something else later. It will happen.
Yeah.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing. I obviously look at other people's Instagrams for like makeup inspiration. I get inspired by seeing how much effort somebody else will put into something. Right. I'm like, that's really cool. I want to try something that's colorful and fun or different like that. Cool. But like, I won't do the exact same thing because like, I don't want to like copy the person, but it's okay to be inspired by somebody.
That's very true.
Like, it's okay that we inspire each other and it's okay that we work as a community together. Yeah. What's the harm in that?
No, I mean, everyone is affected by what's around them in the world. That's just going to happen. Yeah. Right? To deny that is to deny a part of the creative process.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the, absorption and the osmosis of that happening to build you into a better creative.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense.
So we've talked about past Tracy. Yeah. We've talked about present Tracy. Yeah. And I think you know what comes next after that.
Oh, yes. The future.
The future. So I'm not going to do any cliche like 5 or 10 year plans or anything, but your ideal future, what does that kind of look like to you? What is it you're aiming to do with the time you have ahead of you and the resources you have at hand, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I would not be here as much or at all, which would be very sad when that day comes. I really just want to focus on like my makeup, my jewelry, maybe getting into hair, like just doing everything like creative that I can get my hands on.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's just where I like thrive.
Okay.
And I'm happy.
So what does that look like? Does that look like you are at kind of like at home doing your thing and just have people buying your stuff online? Does it look like you have others you work with and like have like a collective? Like what does that like tangibly look like?
Collective would be amazing. I would love to have like a little collective of artists that I work with. But I mean, in terms of like makeup, like just getting my skills better and doing like special effects makeup.
Okay.
Is like working with latex and like molds and painting and just all that really cool stuff. And then like for my jewelry, just practicing and getting better and getting a studio and like selling my stuff more and getting myself out there more. Okay. Is I think where I want to be. So hard. There's so many different forms of social media and I can't keep up with it.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you always have me if you want to, like, figure that out and figure out a strategy behind it, because that is a very core part of my life now. Yeah. So, for those who are listening at home, I'm currently rolling my eyes as I think of how much is going on in social media and how much I have to keep on top of. There's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I was recounting to somebody today. I was like, I have 4 Instagram accounts that I run, 4 Facebook accounts, and 4 emails. And I'm just like, why do I have 4 of everything?
That's when you start investing to put my plug in here for just social media tools. That's when you would probably want to start investing in like one dashboard, just manage it all at the same time.
Yeah.
I use one called CoSchedule, where basically it takes care of all my stuff in one place. So I can schedule out a post. I'll go out to Facebook and Twitter and schedule my Instagrams and stuff. It works really well.
The fact that you have posts ready, that's my other thing, is that like... I don't have stuff ready to go. Yeah. I just like do it as I do it. Like, this is my problem. I have never been a really organized person.
Neither am I. Trust. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish. Don't worry. I'm gonna let you finish. But for me, it's more just like, if I come up with ideas, I'll be there with a notepad and just sketch out like what I can, and I'll schedule it ahead of time where I can. I'm like 2 days ahead right now, which for me is amazing.
I bow down.
I want to be months ahead if I can get down to it.
Yeah.
But I interrupted, and I'm sorry, and now
totally
it's going to go back to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just am so unorganized, and I haven't done a makeup look in probably like 2 weeks because I get home from work, because I work 6 to 2, and I'm like, not today. And then the weekend happens, and I'm like, look at that laundry pile. I have to do that.
Oh, you mean adulting? Yeah. Adulting and all that fun.
That adulting thing? I think that's such a funny thing. Like, I look at my parents, and even though I know they're people, I still, like, remember as a kid, like, you maybe didn't have it figured out, like, to you, but, like, it looked like you had it figured out. Yeah. Like, all the adults around me looked like they had it figured out. Like, they were just adults. And now I'm that. And I'm like, I don't feel like an adult.
And I think that's the secret to it all. You don't realize that adults don't feel like they're adults until you become an adult. You're just kind of like, oh, no one knew what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's so funny that we have a term called adulting now. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, adulting.
It's a good catch-all, though. Yeah. It's a good catch-all for all the stuff we don't want to do.
Yeah. I'm sure my parents are like, yes, I wish I had that term, so people knew what I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there anything in particular you'd like to plug right now, or are you just kind of floating through the ether, doing your thing?
I am just floating through the ether at this moment. I guess if you want to watch me try to do makeup, you can follow my Instagram.
Cool.
It is tracy.m.mua on Instagram.
Cool.
And then my jewelry is Little Bird Jewelry, spelt the Canadian/British way.
Nice. Extra L's and an extra E, baby.
Yeah. So if you want to see how bad I am at keeping up with Instagram, you can go check those out.
How about we'll do this? You send me a list of all the Instagram and Facebooks that you're like associated with, and I'll just post it all in the show notes so that people can check it out.
That's fair. That's
how about
fair.
that? Yeah. Get the links.
Great.
Get the links.
Yeah.
Right? Cool. Well, Trace, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I had a really great time too.
Awesome. And I'm glad we could finally make this work.
I know.
Because I pushed it back like a million times. I'm like, yeah, I'll totally be able to do it now. And then weeks later, I'm like, I totally am going to make this happen, Tracy. I promise.
It's totally fair. I understand. Like you come in and I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I don't. I can barely keep on top of what I have to do.
Duct tape and caffeine injections.
Man, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And this was Chatting with Casey, and there'll be more. So keep listening.
Yeah,
and
do it.
Yeah, and listen to Tracy. She says do it. Tracy always has good advice. Just saying. I'm just saying. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Peace. And that's all our time this week. Tracy was a great reminder that there are some really interesting people in the world around me, and that we shouldn't hold back from having great conversations just because we're on different paths. Don't be surprised if you do eventually see a Tracy and Friends art show come together. Everyone should have the opportunity to really pursue their passions, so I'll help out however I can. But let's part ways for now. If you have any feedback from today's show or anything in general, you can hit me up on Anchor. Just install the app, look the show up on your phone, and leave me a message. And who knows, we might even hear your thoughts included in a future episode. But if you like what you hear, make sure to rate, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next Monday where we talk about dads and some things you might not know about them. Bye-bye.